Hi, my name is Red.
And hi, my name is Piret.
Welcome to listen our TalentHUB podcast. So today I ask here a guest co-host Piret, who's also working at TalentHUB as a partner lead, doing the trainings and things. But today we thought it would be great to have you here as well. So, and our today's topic is about the talent magnet, about employer branding. So why I'm saying talent magnet and employer branding is that I remember like what we do the recruitment, right? And then I thought like it's super hard to do, and we have so cool companies, so cool startups, and but they don't have any brand. Nobody, they're no namers. They're so cool. They have so amazing ideas, but it's impossible to recruit them. So what if we can get somebody who can actually get some branding for them? So we thought that it would be great to add some employer branding at TalentHUB. But today, seeing from the side, I feel like I'm a little bit like I don't know, like old school. I thought employer branding is something like nice to have somewhere on top of the recruitment. But today I just realized it's so much more. It's nothing. I mean, yes, a little part is to do with the recruitment, and yes, it helps us a lot. But it's so much more. And when I've been talking about employer branding with the founders and the other HR, they kind of have us like a similar feeling. So that's why I wanted to call in a guest who are a little bit changing the mindset, the same mindset I had. So changing the mindset for you as well.
Yes, the mindset around employer branding. So welcome, Head of Talent Magnet, Daniel Carrillo Garcia. Hello, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Very happy to be here.
Very happy to have you here as well. So tell me a little bit, I already mentioned that you're from Mexico. So how did you ended up in Estonia?
Well, I think it's destiny. I like to believe Estonia chose me. Like the short story, I guess, it's I got a job as many people in this country. It was a nice offer, but I think when everything started, I was supposed to relocate to Malaysia. So the offer that I got and the interviews and everything was to have a position based in Malaysia. But because of COVID, the visa never happened because they have very strong regulations towards like internationals and everything. And eventually the company said like, okay, we have a small office in Estonia. We don't usually relocate people there, but like we have it for strategical reasons. But if it works for you, then you can come to Estonia. And then eventually I said, okay, let's go to Estonia. And I came here in the middle of COVID, in the lockdown. So it was a very interesting move. But then I really liked it. So I decided to stay. And now I have been here for a bit more than 2 years.
Lovely. So you already started with like why Estonia? Because, you know, Estonians, most of our listeners are from Estonia. And then people always ask, like people coming from the warm place and ended up in Estonia, why? But who is Daniel for listeners beside of employer branding?
Well, I think as you mentioned already, like I'm coming from Mexico, so I was born and raised in Mexico City. So also like a very big contrast to Tallinn. But in a way, I think I am someone that is very passionate about life in general, about trying new things. I'm someone that is very like mission and passion driven. So I think all the jobs or all the opportunities I have taken in my life are always connected to maybe the mission or what it will bring to like a bigger picture. So I think eventually I have lived in different places. I have lived in Argentina. I studied in US for a while. I lived in Poland, now in Estonia. And I think every time I have been moving countries, it's because I really believe that what I will be doing in that country will have a bigger impact. So I like to take opportunities. I like to take chances to move. So I think this is who I am. And then I think in more a professional background, I studied communication in Mexico City. And then I got a specialization in internal comms, internal communication. And then eventually with time, I think that evolved into employer branding, right? So I think when I was studying almost like 12 years ago, this didn't existed yet as a title or as an industry part. But now I would say the specialization, it's actually employer branding.
Awesome. I just wanted to ask, like, how was your journey to employer branding? Because it's a kind of for me, it sounds like it's going to be kind of like the same. Like it's most of the people that journey into the recruitment that just ended up to be there. So how was it like a actual choice you took in some point when it actually started existing, like employer branding, or how it happened?
So I think it was. So as I said, I'm really passionate about what I do and like basically the different kind of opportunities I had. So for me, when I was choosing my degree, I told my parents like I don't want to study something that will like make me work in something that is the same every day. Like I want every day to be different and I want to be working with experiences. So then my options were very limited because there was not many degrees that allow you to work in something that is not routinary or repetitive. So I ended up being in communication because I really wanted to be like building up maybe something in media or like something more connected with that side. But then while like experiences were passing, I realized that what I like is people. So then I really like to create experiences for people. And then this is how everything kind of started getting connected. So when I started doing things for internal communication and then employer branding, everything came together because it was always about building experiences for people. So when I think about when I consciously choose about employer branding, it's because in some point I switched my career to marketing. So I was doing product marketing and I was doing basically expansion as a market in marketing. And that was very like revenue oriented and very numerical in a sense. And I think that was the moment I realized like, okay, I like it and maybe I know how to do it. But what if we bring all of that knowledge in terms of like revenue and metrics to a part that maybe doesn't have it yet, as it's very mainly talking with people and working in the people side of things. And then eventually I said like, okay, if we spend more than half of our lives working in a company, why wouldn't be doing something to create experiences in life and connecting smart people with nice missions? And then that's how I ended up in employer branding.
Very cool, and we are super happy with TalentHUB to have you. So this is how we can spread your experience and your like a power everywhere. So super cool. But as we have some like a regular questions at TalentHUB podcast, so do you have some funny or different story to share about recruitment? I hope it's not with the TalentHUB.
No, I mean, I think I have a couple of them. Let me think. Maybe the one that comes to my mind that is the most remarkable. I remember once I was in a recruitment process for like a company, and then I was on the later stages already of the process. So they asked me to do like a case study. As many companies, I was supposed to present everything. And then when I came there was basically the whole team. So I was not expecting to be presenting this to the whole team. And then kind of the interview switched into like, okay, we don't want to really listen what you prepare, but we want to switch it to you asking questions to the team. So like kind of you will be the interviewer and then the team will be answering whatever you want to like kind of know about us. And I think that was a very interesting approach. Like it never happened to me before, but I think it made it very remarkable in a sense because then I was the one choosing if I actually want to work for that company, not the other way around. And I guess I was very ready to answer a lot of questions, but then sometimes when you get the possibility to ask something to someone, like you don't really think, okay, what do I want to know or like what do I want to judge about these people, company, culture, etc. So that was very, very unexpected, I would say, a couple of years back.
Would you recommend it to the other companies to try it out as well?
I think yes, because it kind of shows what's the interest of people, right? And again, I think for me, it's all about creating live experiences. So like at the end, it was something remarkable, like at the end, it was something that even till today, like couple of years after, I still remember and I still like remember that interview, that people and like the conversations we had, because it was very silly at the beginning. We were talking about, I don't know, favorite movies or like favorite country to travel, to like very deep things about how will they define like the culture, the next steps, like the possibilities of growing in the company. So I think if you are looking for someone that is bringing some curiosity to the team, or like maybe you have a role or a job description that requires this kind of flexibility of like, okay, maybe you are hired for this, but then in 3 days we need something different. I think it's a great approach to maybe try something different.
Did you start working with a company?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, and another quick question about some of the things you think may change the world.
So I am personally very, very obsessed with leadership. I truly believe like leadership is the fundamental solution to many of the problems that we have. So I guess if I could change something, I would be changing a lot of leaders in the world. Like I think if like we will have different leaders taking decisions, most probably we will have a better world in many different means. So I would go for leadership.
Okay.
I don't think many people will disagree with you on that one. It's a good thought. But moving on to employer branding then. What is employer branding for the listener who doesn't know anything about it?
Okay, so let's think that we are in a space when we don't have any misconception or any reference about employer branding. So I think if you just listen to the word, most probably you will have reference towards like something visual, something catchy, like basically creating a brand, right? So like how like you are perceived and maybe how people will think about you. I think if we go a bit deeper into like maybe dictionary definition, it's basically what you offer as a company, right? And the reputation that you have towards who you are and how do you describe yourself and why people maybe should come to work with you or maybe why should people like choose you as an employer. But I personally disagree a lot with this kind of definitions. So I will give you my own definition of employer branding for the listeners that we might not have much context about it. But I think for me, employer branding, maybe as a word, is not reflecting what it's actually all about. I think for me, it's how do you connect your mission with the right people and how you make sure that everyone in the table and everyone in the structure and everyone in the organigram of your company, even if it's a company of 2 or it's a company of 2,000, like has the drive towards the same mission, and how are you making sure that this idea that you have in your head as a founder, as someone that is starting up a business, it's transmitted to different people in different extents, so everyone feels connected to it and everyone works towards it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's an interesting take, because I was going to also ask you, like, what are the key sort of employer branding stereotypes? So would you add anything in there, like this standard stereotypes for employer branding?
Yes, I mean, I think you could agree with me in many things, but whenever we have something new or something like catchy, as I said, I think employer branding is something that started becoming popular a couple of years ago. Like now everyone kind of talks about it, everyone kind of is worried about because we have too many opportunities to like maybe too little people to cover the positions that we are offering, etc. So I think for me, the first misconception is that it's something that is nice to have. Like, you know, like sometimes when like you get something like catchy and that everyone is talking about, is like, okay, if this didn't existed like 2 years ago, then why would I need it now? And I think that's the first misconception, because I think employer branding has been existing for years, but maybe we didn't know about it or we didn't acknowledge it as something to do. Maybe the second thing will be that it's something expensive. I don't know, what do you think? But when I think about the word employer branding, for me, it gives this sensation that it's something expensive. It's kind of like something exclusive, something that not everyone can have, or like maybe you shouldn't have if you are just like starting, or like you are like, for example, an early stage startup. Like you will think like, okay, maybe this is something I can worry in 10 years from now, but not now. And I think that's a very big mistake because you are building your employer brand since the day one. And I would say maybe even since day zero. Since the moment that you have an idea, you are already shaping what kind of culture do you want to have, what kind of like contribution will you have to the world. And that's already like part of your brand. So I think that's a very big misconception that it might be out there. Maybe the last one would be that this is an HR topic. And I think this is for me something that it's very funny, because I don't think like it's an HR topic. All the companies are made by people and we all need people to succeed, and the business needs people to succeed. So people is not an HR business, but people is a business matter. So like, I think when you think about that perspective that without people your business cannot succeed, without people there's not growth, without people there's no like revenue, without people there's no success, then it becomes a strategical approach that the whole company put it as its core. And when it's in the core, and then you as a founder or you as initiator of something has this mindset that it's in the core, then I think it's way easier to create a company that will succeed in a long term.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I think we will want to dig deeper into those concepts and things as well in a second. But before we do, so based on everything you've said right now, what is it that you would want every single early stage startup founder to know about employer branding? Like, what are the key things you want them to understand and embrace about employer branding from day zero?
Mm-hmm. I would say that the first thing is, I think as a founder, and I mean, I'm talking about it because I have tried some things in the past, right? Like I have never founded a company or anything, but I have tried certain business, and I even had the chance once to be a CEO of a company and kind of be more strategical in that approach. And I think something that is very interesting for me is that when you are a founder and when you are on an early stage, you are very in love of your mission. Like you feel like, you know, this is your baby and you want to share it with the world, and how you see it is how it is. And I think when you think about building an employer brand, it means understanding how your idea or how your mission or how your dream can be translated into the right words for everyone to understand it. So, you know, I think when you're a founder, for example, if I will think about it in a very simple way as a language, like you could be speaking to me in Estonian and it could be the most beautiful mission and the most beautiful statement. But if I don't speak Estonian, then I am missing out. I will never understand what you mean, even if it's something amazing that will change the world. So we need to find a common element and a common language, right? And I guess this is something that every founder should understand. Like communication is a huge bridge that can open many doors if we use it right. And then I think that's something that will be very valuable to know in early stages. Then the second thing, I guess, is that worrying about your people strategy or like your employer branding strategy or like maybe we will talk about it later, but I also like to redefine this term. But I think that's today in how the world works, the only way to actually get the real attention from investors and from like VC and from all of the people that is trying to invest in new ideas, because everyone has good ideas. Everyone has like the next solution for the big problem in the world. And everyone wants to have people. But then very few people have a drafted strategy of how I will get there. Like where I will find these people, who will be these people, how I will attract them, you know, to work in a company that is just starting and that we just have like, you know, a small room in my living room with 2 tables and a laptop. How would I convince the best talent out there to come and join me in this mission? So I think that will be something that I will also like consider, like, again, having a people strategy on early stages is a non-negotiable. Like as you have a budget, as you have a spreadsheet when you are tracking, you know, your money, your expenses, I think having defined next steps for like your people strategy and approach is a must-have. And maybe the last one and the most simple one is, again, like I think in an early stage when we are just starting a business or we are just starting a company, I think you need to be aware that you are already building your reputation and that your reputation, personal reputation, it's also away from your company's reputation, because I think that's a very like tiny line when you are a founder. You feel like because you are popular or maybe because you are known or you have built 3 companies before, then everyone will want to work with you. But that doesn't mean that they want to work for the company that you are building up today. Like, yeah, you might have a great personal branding. You might be very popular or very, very known in the industry. But that doesn't mean that just because like people want to work with you, they will succeed at working at the company mission that you are building today. So I think having this differentiation and being humble enough to recognize that you need to build a brand for your own new company or new brand, it's also something that it's important to know on early stages.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. There's so many thoughts in there. First of all, I love this idea of that branding and people business isn't for HR and for employer branding. That is a business. People is business, and understanding that that the mission and the drive of the communication, you can't assume that people. You can't assume that people will understand what you're saying, that you have to find a way to communicate that. I think it's a really important thing in every step of life. But yes, absolutely with employer branding as well. Really interesting.
Absolutely. So I was just thinking like, maybe, I know we have many listeners just starting their companies, just new ones, and just sitting in their living room, looking those two tables there and having like amazing mission, and think, okay, cool. So this guy is saying that that's not enough. So what they should do? So where to start? Because probably with these two tables, they just don't have a budget, and as everybody kind of think it's something very expensive and nice to have, and you just said it's not. So what they can do or where to start?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question because I don't mean that it's not enough. I think it's just it's not ambitious enough, and I think this is what I would like to maybe point out. I feel like when you are building a business, you are ambitious in many ways, right? You are ambitious about what it will get, what it will solve, like the investments that you will get. But I think this ambition maybe gets short when we talk about people. So where to start, or like what could be my first next action step? Let's say if I'm listening at this, I think first of all I will maybe go for my notebook, and then I will open it, and then I will try to understand, okay, what's a culture, or like what's a company culture that I would like to work at. Like, I think that's also something that it's a question that can help a lot, because you as a founder, I think you have the power to like create the culture that you always dream about. But when you are already in that position, you already forgot that one day you were part of a company and that there might be things that you didn't like. So maybe first of all, asking that question, like what's the type of company that I would like to work in today, with my current state, with my current dream, with the current ideas that I have, will already help you to draft the first steps towards your culture. And then I think if you have this draft, then you can start thinking, okay, and then how every person that I have today in my list, in my room, in my company, even if it's again 2, 3, 5, 7, how are they fitting this? How are they contributing to this? How are we creating an ecosystem when we all bring certain contributions? And then maybe understanding that role of everyone can help you to already define where do you want to be? What are you missing in order to get there? And then you can start understanding if maybe you are missing, I don't know, certain traditions inside the company to be there, or maybe you are missing certain people with certain personalities. So it means that you need to bring more diversity into the team, or like it means that you have to, I don't know, communicate that better, because maybe no one is aware that you want to work in a company like that. And then trying to put the dots together, like what's my dream or what's my ambition in a culture perspective. And then what do I have, or what do I offer today, and how those connect. I think that's already a good first step, just to understand where do you stand, and then what could be some action steps.
Just wondering, is it this notebook, the thing that you're actually coming back, like should come back in every, I don't know, once in a while and check if I'm there, or is it something that can change over the years as well?
I mean, I think it's both. I think nothing in this world is static, right? So like everything, it's constantly evolving. But I guess it's your definition and how do you want to see it as a founder. I think as a founder, you have two options. You have like, you get the people, you let them be, and then the people is the one basically shaping the culture, and then you need to adjust to that because it's already hard to change it. Or you come as a founder and then you create a space where you say like, okay, let's sit together, let's try to define where do we want to be, and let's create that ideal scenario. So like, I think it's both, and depending on which one do you choose, then you either come back to that notebook and then you are checking how are you doing, or you either allow people and allow everyone to contribute to it. I don't think there's right or wrong. Like, I think they both work for different different kind of companies, for a different kind of approach, for how much CEO or a founder want to be involved. I think they are different, but I would say that it's always evolving. Like, it doesn't matter, like, if you grow it today or like in 5 years back, it will always be a bit different, but there should be some stuff that will remain through the way.
Cool. Just thinking, like, me as a founder, thinking like that right now sounded like it's the all company, like, a responsibility. It's all about culture, living up the culture thing. Why do I need a separate person for employer branding?
I think, again, when you have, and maybe let's try to reformulate the whole scenario, right? So I think you don't really need someone like specifically for employer branding, right? But you also don't need anyone to manage your budget. You also don't need anyone to do like advertisement. You don't need an engineer to develop your web. Like, no one is essential, right? Like, if in that sense that's questionable, then yeah, maybe anyone can do anything. But I guess the reason why this function exists, or the reason why there is people that specialize in this, I think it's because there is this bridge again between people, between results, and between emotions. So I think you build something that creates something unique for the company, but that activates results and that also puts people on top of that. So it's kind of having someone that overlooks how are we doing in terms of results, and then how do we make sure that our people is contributing to those results or boosting those results, and then how do we communicate that to keep empowering people to come in. So I think that's maybe the reason why this function, it's relevant, because having this overview of like how things move and how what we are communicating in all different senses of the company or the startup, I think it's what makes this job interesting.
Absolutely. I was rather pushing you because several years ago, it was a kind of a same discussion about like, why do you need HR? I need somebody who's just doing the contracts and, ending them if it's needed. So it's actually, it's nice to have like HR person who is like taking care of like kind of people. So I personally have a feeling that employer branding, or as we are calling it, talent magnet, is a thing like in several years. It's like HR and you have employer brand. It's not something nice to have there. So, but all the startups, I think most of the companies, but definitely all the startups, they like to measure everything. So how do you measure your success in employer branding or talent magnet?
So maybe let's try to build up on this talent magnet definition we have built. So as I said, I think employer branding as a term, it might be a bit away of what I actually understand about employer branding. And again, maybe it's not that it's bad, because I'm doing employer branding. I have been doing it for like different kind of companies and different kind of sizes. But I think when I think about it specifically, like startups or like early stage business that are just starting, I think the talent magnet concept is something that fits more to our own reality. So I think one of the struggles, as I said at the very beginning, is how do you make sure that you have the best people to make your idea succeed? I think maybe most of the founders will agree with me that the first years of your business are crucial to like kind of set the success, or like how far can you get, right? So like it's like you have a limited amount of time and resources that you need to put in place in order to succeed. Because if you run out of money, or you run out of like, this time frame that you have to succeed, then it's over. So I think in that sense, when you are an early stage, or like founding a company, the most important thing for you at the very beginning should be attract the right talent. Should be to have this magnet of, okay, how do I make sure I bring the best people towards this so we can make this business succeed? And then in that sense, I think that's how we like that to recall. Because for me, being a talent magnet, it not just means that, okay, we have a nice career website and then we have a nice job ad so people want to apply. But we are building an ecosystem of values, recognition, mission, and everything kind of comes together to talk to specific audiences and targets. And then if that works, then that also boost in later stages your business, because then you make your algorithm work better, you get better engagement, you get like cheaper ads, you get, like there is a lot of good things that happen if you have actual organic engagement about your company with people, because then your business can also benefit from that. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think I went to like a very different place.
Yes, but I mean, we get there back. So very good that we got it somehow to the branding, right? So what's the difference like between company branding, employer branding, the product or the service branding they're doing? Like where their lines are going, or are there actually lines? Or
I think. They are, of course, different, but they are, of course, the same.
So branding is branding.
I mean, I think I like a lot this concept, and I think it's something that it's definitely not mine, but it's there in the industry and in many places about unified brands. I think the most successful brands today are the ones that are managed to have a unified brand in all the different angles. So this doesn't mean your branding need to be the same, or the way that you are communicating has to be the same from a product perspective, from a career perspective, from a company perspective, internal communication perspective, but they all have to have certain common elements. Like you cannot be so distant. You cannot have, for example, being like a customer success company and then have an amazing landing page for like customer experience and customer support, and then have a career page that is not reflecting at all, or is not caring like at all about like the experience of your own like people applying to the job. So there has to be certain connection. There has to be certain like bridge between what we communicate. And I guess the goal is to make sure that we have intention in each message that we are sending. So the target group most probably are the same. Like the people that you are communicating something to become a customer probably will be someone that would apply for that job in the future, and probably will be someone that will be like standing in another, position in 3 years. So it has to be something that evolves. Like you have to create a journey that allows people to go from one stage to the other. Because I think the ideal state will be you have customers, and then the customers fall in love of your brand, and then they want to work for you because, it's so cool. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of this mission. I want to be part of this product that is creating amazing experiences. And then you go, you apply, you have a great experience during the recruitment process. Then you became an ambassador as an employee. And then you are advocating the company and inviting more people to get to know the company. So you get more customers, you get more applicants. And then it's kind of like a loop. So I think it's all interconnected, but it doesn't necessarily have to have the same messages, but it has to build on.
I really love the idea that there are it's a whole thing. It's not like one standing without another, and they are supporting each other.
Yeah, I just had a question. So we've established that some of the mistakes that founders make is assuming that it's an HR thing, or it's something that you can do later, or a nice to have, and there has to be like this unified messaging, which is awesome. But what other common mistakes are people or companies or founders making around employer branding? So
I think the most common, and it happens all the time, is that they reduce everything like employer branding related to the career page. So if I have a career page and the career page is functional and it's nice, then it's done. I have it all. And then I don't need it. But then I think that's the biggest mistake, because this is not about a career website. It's not that the career website is nice and it has nice pictures and it offers amazing snacks in our office. I think it's more about this is the reflection. It's like a mirror. Like your career website should be the reflection of everything that is happening internally, and that requires a lot of effort from the back. You need to make sure that, if you are saying okay, we are a community of people that likes to challenge each other, then how you are creating that atmosphere inside the company so people actually challenge each other, and then they can show the result of those challenges in social media, and then they can become ambassadors and they can include it in the recruitment process, etc. Right? So I think that's the most common mistake. Thinking that if I want to have people, what do I need? I need a recruitment page. If I have a recruitment page, then it's done and we are good to go. Maybe a second mistake would be that it's a one-time thing. I think, it's something that I will put some time, like maybe 3 months project. Let's define it. Let's define some strategies. Let's define some like rituals we want to have, or let's define some events we want to run internally, and then that's it. Like, okay, we check the box, and then we're good to go, and then that's it. But again, I think this is something that it's built every single day. Like, and then you have constant evolution on the kind of initiatives, projects, and involvement of people. So again, you are always renewing as well your people. You have people that has like it's changing. So like our approach towards that should be also changing and should be also dynamic. So I think that's something. And then maybe the last one is that whenever we think about employer branding, we usually try to look up at something. Like, okay, what are good companies for this? Or like, who is doing it good? Or maybe like, what are other companies doing in that sense? And I think like employer branding is something unique. Like, there's no correct answer. There's no like two companies that offers the same. Like, even if they offer literally the same benefits, like they are offering a very different culture and way of working. So I think in that sense, you don't have to look at anything, but you have to look inside and understand, okay, who I am as a company, and then how do I reflect that, and then you have a very big opportunity to succeed in the market of recruitment.
Really awesome. It's like I've looked back on like a company profile and careers page and just like see like comments and stuff that I maybe had written like 5 years ago or something like that are still there, and you go like, oh, it's cute that it's so good that it has been kept, but at the same time it's like things have changed, things have moved on. Or even when a company grows, the culture you have when you're 50 people or 10 people is completely different to what you have when you're 150 people or 200 people. So that continuity and growing with your people as well is super important. I had another question and that completely escaped me right now.
No worries. I can't ask this question anymore. But in my mind was like, okay, Daniel, tell us from your side, like who has a very good employer brand you look up to it. But I'd rather maybe ask like what makes one employer brand as a great employer brand.
Mm-hmm. I think for me there are, I would say, few elements that are non-negotiable when you think about your employer brand. One is that it's authentic. Like it has to be you. It has to reflect who you are. It has to reflect the people that works with you, and it has to show the good and bads. I think today there is no one that believes in a company that says like, okay, this is great, we don't have any problems, we are like in a pink rainbow every day, because that's not true. We all know that we are facing challenges, and I guess if you are authentic and transparent enough to show these are the challenges that we are facing, and we are as a company work in progress. We are not perfect. We have mistakes. We have had mistakes, but we are trying to solve them. We are trying to change. We are trying to do things differently. I think that already shows a lot of value. And maybe this is for something that, again, it's maybe a bit bigger companies that have already like certain mistakes to showcase in a sense. But if you are just starting, I think that authenticity, it's again, a key piece of like really showing like from where this idea came from, like kind of allowing the world to know, like, and to understand and to like see where this whole concept, idea, or business intention came from. Then I would say that the next one will be, it has to be something that is yes, remarkable, but that it's simple and consistent. I think that's the key of it. We are in a generation, and as people, we have a very short attention scope. Like we are jumping from one thing to another. We have too many options. We see a lot of different things. So it has to be something that is simple and consistent. Like it has to be something that whenever I hear that word, then that's the thing that comes to my brain. And like this company or this service or this product. And then I would say that the last one, it has to like be able to engage and create engagement. So if you have something that, or your way of attracting people of a message or something is not creating conversation, positive or negative, then you are not doing right in a sense, because you are trying to invite someone to a door that is already closed. But then if you have something that opens up the door of discussion, then I can come and I can ask, oh, why do you see the world in this way? Or like, oh, why do you think like, the light is green? So I think in that sense, that will be three things that are non-negotiable to assess if your employer brand is good, if it's authentic, if it's something that it's catchy, repetitive, consistent in a sense, and that it's something that it's also like very yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to just ask about this consistency. So yes, I understand that it's not just like a career page or something, blog post. But what do you mean under that? Like how often or how you measure that consistency in the terms of employer branding?
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I am fully honest with you, I think that's something that happens every day. Like every second, your employer branding, it's getting like somewhere, because you have people is talking, and you're gonna control that in a sense, right? So I think it's all the time there, and that's the consistency that exists. Like you have to be there in the conversation. Doesn't matter how, when, or where. As a company, of course, you can like plan and you can have a schedule of like, okay, we want to talk about these topics once a week, or we want to like showcase our culture like twice a week. We want to do interviews. We want to do posting in social media. We want to do certain things. But I guess the key success for all of those things to work is working every day on the engagement of your own people. So if they became ambassadors, if they engage with the conversation, if they showcase their own things, then it's way easier like for you to kind of understand where are you moving. Then in terms of how to measure it, or then how to see if it's actually working or not, or like if it has an impact, I think it's more about first, of course, you can have very like hard targets in terms of NPS, in terms of like time to hire, in terms of like, how much easy or not, like the pipeline of applicants that you get per position is increasing or not. But I think there are also other ways to see it. As I said, maybe in engagement rates in social media, in like how like are you improving your algorithm, like how certain costs are going down. I think that's also an impact of it in a budget perspective.
Plus, of course, the people who are staying in a company, are they actually staying or are they leaving it just in the later stage?
That's all the big things, the feelings, the emotions, the culture, the values, the big meaningful things. What about the simpler things like font, colors, language that you use in your message and things like that? What are the things that people should really think about when they're communicating these messages out?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think again, we live in a world that is so diverse today that I think those details are every time a bit less relevant, in a sense that it doesn't matter if you write on blue or red. Of course, there is a psychology of colors. Of course, it depends on what's your service, what's your product, what's your intention behind. But in that sense, I would say that the answer is whatever represents your company. Like, I think today we have we are very visual in a sense as humans. We like to connect things with visuals. So if your company like resonates with, I don't know, Comic Sans as a font, then use Comic Sans because that represents who you are. That represents, I don't know, the font you want to bring to the meetings, Like if you want to have something that it's so old-fashioned, but that basically represent, I don't know, how you joke internally about something, then create a template with that. Like, I think in that sense, again, there's no like a checklist in a sense of like, okay, this is the right way to do it. I like, and that's what I love. Mm-hmm. Like every company has the opportunity to do something unique. And then when you think about it, I think that's the coolest thing. Like you are creating an atmosphere that it's based on your own mission, on your own passion, on your own dream. And then you are allowing people to join to that. And then you are creating an experience for them, because at the end, that's what we want.
Yeah. But what about the consistency between those? So when we've got like a landing page for our clients and a landing page for our careers, like, is it okay for me to go and like one day I'll put the black on red colors, and then the next day I'll go with blue and I don't know, green, because why would colorblind people want to read? But yeah, like this consistency in those little details. How much do the details matter in the big picture?
I think they do. I think they do. Because, I mean, at the end, that's maybe more connected to this repetition point of thing. So, yeah, I guess if you decide to go somewhere, then keep it consistent. Like, I mean, don't change it every day according to your mood, and don't create something that it's different every day. But then I guess if you already have something that you feel it defines who you are, it defines your like image, it defines how you want to communicate, then I think the life cycle of that, I would say, I wouldn't change it before, I don't know, 2 years, I would say, if you are already like a well-established company. And then if you are in an early stage, I guess you have the opportunity to shape it more often because you are in a trial period. So maybe, you know, if you keep a message consistent for 1-2 months, then you can actually get enough data to assess if this is the direction we want to go, if this is attracting the people that we want to attract, or we need to reshape it. So I guess as you get more established in the market and people is already connecting with you in certain things, it's way harder to rebrand everything, right? Because then they already have certain connotations towards you. But when you are in early stages, I think you can test a lot. And I think I'm a big fan of testing. Like you get an idea, then you go out, you put it there, you gather some feedback, and then if it works, it works. And if it doesn't work, then we find something different to represent it.
Test, but don't forget to measure. I think people sometimes experiment, but they forget to take the before and after figures as well.
That's true, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been really interesting. There's probably a million more questions to ask you, but we're going to run out of time for now. So our final questions for you. Who is the person who inspires you the most?
Who is the person that inspires me the most? I mean, I think it will sound very fluffy, but I would say my mom. I mean, I don't know. I'm very family oriented, so of course, I think the way that my parents are and behaved and work and educated me, I think it's always inspirational for me. But then I think if I will need to go,
you don't need to go.
I would say a good human, like any good human.
That's a really warm answer. Thank you. And also, can you give our listeners and readers one reading or listening recommendation?
Yeah. Let me think about it. That's always the question that show you as, okay, am I smart enough to recommend something? But I'm
just going to say, everybody says it's like a hard questions because, you know, it's coming like, oh, exactly the feeling that, oh, I don't know, I have like this brain freeze, but some things, yeah, there's been.
Mm-hmm. I think there is a very good book that talks about the culture of Netflix and how do they build up like
Eddie
this
McCord.
basically empire. Yeah. I think it's very cool to see how like they literally like were breaking all the rules. Like I think it's called like that, no rules. And then I think it's very cool because it shows how even if it seems that everything is already defined by now, how things should be and how things should work, you are always able to come up with new solutions and break the mold.
Cool. Daniel, it was great to have you here, and it was so cool to hear that employer branding or talent magnet is not like something nice to have or some kind of like HR topics, because you know all the companies are saying that when they are successful, like this happened because of the people. Nobody says like, okay, thank you for the investors, yes, thank you, and thank you for our client. But they say like this is the people are the ones who actually built the company. So Talent Magnet is the one that it's not something nice to have, it's something must have. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree. And I mean, I would expect that this podcast has then a lot of questions from our listeners, and then it's coming up with more questions. So I think that's always nice. Maybe we will get a second edition answering questions.
Absolutely.
But I guess if not, I think they can always reach out to me or something, and then I will be very happy to like just discuss forward the topic, because I think it's infinite. Like we could spend hours talking about it.
I know. So where is the best place to reach you?
I mean, I think, of course, you can go to our TalentHUB page, and then you will find there a specific section for employer branding. But if not, you can also find me out on LinkedIn, Daniel Carrillo Garcia, and then I'm there.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
you.
Daniel. Bye.